All right, folks, what a beautiful morning we have. Just hanging out here in the National Forest. We got in here last night and we got a beautiful little creek, and for the most part it's a pretty nice day. A few high clouds, but you know, mostly blue skies, so it's been really nice. No wind, and just super relaxing this morning. But I've been working on some van projects, still trying to get a few things in the interior worked out. I'm going to be leaving here in about 2 or 3 days to head off to a trip to Hell's Canyon in northeast Oregon, a pretty remote area that I like to go to every spring. And I just want to get a few more things dialed in on the van before I head off on that trip. So I thought we'd just do a little walk around on the van, kind of show you guys where we're at, kind of how I have some of my gear set up, and some of the projects I'm trying to knock out here in the next few days. And we'll probably be sharing some of those projects as I'm doing them with you as we go as well. And we'll get down the Hell's Canyon and we'll start working on some of my more regular style content where we you know, video our trips and stuff like that. But I thought some of you guys would definitely appreciate seeing how the van is coming together, and some of my thought process behind the way I'm setting things up. And again, you know, I just kind of keep reminding people the van is very temporarily set up because this is my first van and I'm trying to kind of figure out how I want it. So I'm, again, keeping everything very fluid and, you know, just moving things around a lot and trying different things. But this is kind of where we're at right now. So anyways, to kind of start off, the first thing I did is I flipped around my passenger seat. This is just a temporary solution. When I get back from Hell's Canyon, I'm going to hunt down a good captain's chair that's rotatable, so that way it'll be legal, be able to flip it around, and somebody sit in it and legally be able to sit and ride with me if I did have somebody, but also be able to spin it around and use it as kind of a nice chair to just hang out inside the van when we're parked. I've been kind of doing this. I just flipped this around this morning. I've been sitting in it and reading a little bit, and it's really worked out nice. I really like a lot how this is gonna open up the van, because it really made the van feel a lot more spacious and a lot bigger. And another thing that I did to kind of help with that is I moved my Frigerator. Typically I had my Frigerator right up behind this seat, and it was long ways, and as soon as you open the main door, it was right there and kind of in your way. But I mean, yeah, you could access it and get stuff out of it fairly easy, but if you were trying to get in and out of the van, it was a pain in the butt. So what I did is I've shoved it back here, which has really opened up this area, but we have a problem that we got to still work out, and that is we can't open the lid of the Frigerator. Actually, on either side, it won't open because it hits the back of the seat. What I'm going to do there, and again, this will have to be a project once I return from Hell's Canyon, is I'm going to build a slider for the Frigerator. I'm going to get a couple good lock-in, lock-out sliders and build a slide platform underneath, so that way I can pull this Frigerator towards me. That way, if I'm standing outside the door, say like this, I can pull the Frigerator towards me, be able to get into the Frigerator, and then push it back again up and out of the way, leaving me lots of space right here for, you know, just doing stuff inside the van. Another thing that I've been using in the van is my Claymore lights. That's how I light the van at night. I like them because they've got really strong magnets, and again, where I'm trying to be very fluid with the van and I haven't really set anything in, it gives me the opportunity to kind of really move them around and figure out where, if I do ever want to put permanent lighting in, it's helping me try to figure out where I'd want those lights to be. But I don't know, I can't make up my mind. As it is, I really like the Claymore lights because they offer a lot of functionality. They have different settings, so I can actually have blue light or yellow light or somewhere in between. And I really like the fact that when I'm videoing for you guys and I have those lights on, they don't create flicker. They're just a really high quality LED. And I got those from Big Ten Outdoors. If anybody's interested, I'll make sure there's a link down below. So another, I don't know if I've really talked to you guys about the table. So this is just a regular RV table I picked up on Amazon. And then I got one of the Lagoon arms to mount it to. And it's handy because it gives me a lot of flexibility in how the table sits. So right now it's sitting here, but I can slide it up and down, and it's on an arm, so I can move the table around. So it really gives me a lot of flexibility with how the table is functions for me. And the table's got two purposes for me right now. The way I've got set up is A, this is where I work. This is my workstation where I set up my laptop and work from. And B, it is an extension of my bed. So I'm 6'4". The way I've got the bed set up right now, it's just a touch shy, probably about a foot and a half shy of being long enough for me. So what I do is I've got a couple dog beds that I keep up on the main part of the bed for the dogs to lay on. And when I'm ready to go to bed, I just grab one of those dog beds, throw it on top of the table, throw my blankets over the top, and now I have an extension for my feet, and I can completely stretch out. And that's been, I've actually been doing that for a couple weeks now, and that works out really well. And then in the morning, all I have to do is throw the dog bed back up on the main part of the bed, throw my blankets back, and it's back to being a table. So super simple, really easy, and I'm liking that. I've talked a little bit about my monitor before. I've got an LG 4K monitor. It's 28 inch. It's mounted with an RV mount to the wall of the van, and that's what I use for when I'm sitting here working. I can plug my laptop in, and then I can plug that monitor in, and it gives me a second monitor to work from, which is really helpful when it comes to editing my videos for you guys. That's all running off of my Jackery 1000, which is behind the Frigerator right now. I have it just set back there, but it runs my basic inverter. It's got 3 plugs on it, and then it's also backup power because I have a house battery in here that runs pretty much everything. It runs my Frigerator, runs my Max Air fan, also runs my Propex heater, and then it charges my Jackery. But in the case that my dual battery system was to fail for any reason, having my Jackery is kind of a backup solution to where I could plug the Frigerator back into the Jackery, and I wouldn't have to worry about my food spoiling while I'm trying to figure out or repair the dual battery system. As far as the dual battery system, I have a Full River AGM battery. It's a 210 amp hour battery, and that, like I said, runs the main components of the house portion of the van. So that whole system is actually working out really well, and I've been really happy with it. I've been running on it for a while. Don't look too carefully at the wiring. I still, again, a lot of this is very temporary, trying to just get some things worked out and figure out really what my power needs are. And I really just needed to get something kind of set up so that I could run and really start to, narrow in on what my actual power needs are. And I might be, even with 210 amp hours, I might be just a little bit shy of how many amp hours I really need to have in this van to fully function the way I want with the accessories I have in here. But so far it's been working half decent, but I do definitely need to make sure that I'm running the van or driving or something every day to keep everything charged up. I don't have solar yet. It is going to be something I want to add to the van, but I don't have it in place yet. What I am doing is I have a Renogy 40 amp DC to DC that keeps the house battery charged. It does a great job. It's a lot better solution than, say, a solenoid. A lot of people use solenoids or relays, but that has your alternator recharging the battery. And even though the alternator is still providing the power to recharge the battery with the DC to DC. The DC to DC converts that power into an actual 3-stage charge so that you can actually recharge a deep cycle battery back all the way up to full properly, whereas the alternator by itself cannot do that. It's a single stage charge. It's meant simply just to keep your start battery charged up. One of the things I had to do to make this all work is I also had to upgrade the alternator on the van. The stock alternator wasn't putting out enough amps to run the van and be able to run the DC to DC, the 40 amp DC to DC. So I had to contact Nation's Starter and Alternator, and they sold me a high output alternator that is capable of pumping out 200 amps at idle. So with that, I have enough power to, like I said, properly run the van and run the DC to DC. I did just test it. I knew already it wasn't going to work without the new alternator, but just to confirm, I put the DC to DC in and tried to run it just off the stock alternator and the stock, and I was killing my battery, my start battery, because the DC to DC was pulling more amps than the stock alternator could put out at idle. So definitely, if you're thinking about a dual battery system, you have to think about your alternator and if it's capable of producing not only the amps you need for the van or for your vehicle, but enough to be able to actually recharge your battery. And I definitely feel like if you're doing a dual battery, you should be doing some form of DC to DC. Now, with that said, little Jackery plug, if you're just going overlanding and all you care about is running a refrigerator and charging a few devices, I definitely feel like one of these Jackery 1000s is a much easier way to go. It will run your refrigerator, it will charge your devices, you can plug it into your vehicle and it can recharge off your vehicle. Most newer vehicles have cigarette lighter ports now that shut off with the vehicle, so you don't have to worry about discharging your start battery while you're running the vehicle. So I do think that if you just want a much simpler and a less costly way of doing a dual battery, this is a great solution. These run about, I don't know, sometimes you got promo codes, but I think they run about $1,000 typically. But if you consider how much money I had to put into this dual battery system to make it right, by the time I spent $300 on a new alternator, $200 on a DC to DC, I think I spent close to $300 on good wiring, or $300 to $400 on good wiring, and then another I think $150 on good bus systems and connectors and all the things that go on, and then making sure I wired everything properly. It very easily starts to figure that these are cheaper. Plus, if you also figure out that my battery alone, the Full River battery, is about $600 for just that battery. So one of these start to become very cheap very quickly. You think of it as $1,000 and it's a lot of money, but when you start thinking in all the cost of an actual properly done dual battery system, this becomes very cheap very quick. So with that all out of the way, let's get on to some of my storage I've got set up. I've been using a lot of these just little black totes with the yellow lids. I really like these small totes because it keeps me from overloading them and making them too heavy. And then I just make sure that they're all labeled around each edge. And then I know exactly what's in them, and they stack very easily. So I like that. And I've been actually getting rid of all my other totes and going straight to these small totes, and it just makes storing things very easily. It also makes it easy for those that follow the channel that know that I've got my F250 and my drifter trailer. If I'm swapping vehicles for whatever reason, or I'm wanting to exchange gear, like I want to put the gear I have in here into the drifter trailer and swap out gear I have in the drifter trailer into the van, it just makes the whole process very easy. And like I said, they stow really nice. Plus, what I've been doing is these two totes here come out, and then I just throw a pillow on top, and that's my chair for the desk. That works out really well for me for when I'm working at my desk. Now I think what we'll do, oh, and then I should say, right now, again, this is kind of a temporary, more of a long-term temporary, because what I want to do is going to cost quite a bit, and that's going to be a little bit more of a long-term, a little bit longer-term part of the project. So this is temporary, but it's kind of long-term temporary, if that makes sense. But my propane tank is mounted right here under the bed. It's got a couple quick connects. One of the quick connects runs back to the Propex heater. The other quick connect will allow me to go out to the front door here to be able to plug in my stove. So one of the things I want to be able to do is projects I'm going to be working on probably this week is building a couple little shelves off the front of these doors. That way I can, on this particular door over here, I'll be able to put my stove on that door and be able to stand right outside the door here and cook and everything. That will be great for when I'm wanting to use the van by itself. There will be trips that I use the van by itself and trips that I'm using the trailer. When I'm using the trailer, I set up my whole cook system and everything at the trailer. It gives me a nice setup over there, and I've got a little bit more gear and everything with the trailer. When I'm going to be using the van by itself, it's just going to be the single burner stove and a small cast iron skillet and my bush pot, and that will be my complete cook system, and I'll be able to run that off the door. So that's going to be one of my projects I'm going to be working on this week, is building some shelves on the door. So let's go around to the back, and I'll kind of show you a little bit of the storage in the back. All right, guys, so we're at the back of the van here. This is, the back of my bed, obviously, and underneath it is what I call my garage space. And this is where I store a lot of my gear. Again, you can see I'm using a lot of these little small totes. They're all labeled, and I've got various things from food to tools to, just different items that I like to have with me when I'm camping. So underneath the bed, I have a lot of storage here, but it is a pain for me to grab stuff underneath that's all the way back underneath the bed. So one of the projects I'm going to be working on this week is I have a couple of lock-in, lock-out 500-pound sliders that I ordered. They should be at my mailbox right now. I just got to go grab them, and then we're going to build a slide that comes out. And so that will be a project that I'll share with you guys. We'll build that slide. That way I'll be able to have all my gear on there, and when I need something out, I'll just be able to slide out everything and be able to easily access everything, that even the stuff that's all the way to the back. And that's going to be super handy, so I'm excited about that. But like I said, I do keep, like over here, this is where I keep my shovel and my axe. I just keep the shovel right in here. I keep my axe right over here. Again, this is long-term temporary, because what I want to do, and along with the propane tank that I mentioned earlier, is I want to get a aluminous rear bumper, and then that way I can put my spare tire here, which is currently, again, long-term temporary, up on top of the roof rack, and then I will have a space here that I'm going to put my propane tank, and then I also want to be able to put my shovel and axe out here. Now, another project that I'm hoping to get done this week, I have my high lift jack right here. I did order some mounts. It's going to actually get mounted up on the rack on the side, so that hopefully will get moved here this week, and then that will be a little bit more organized. But like I said, long-term temporary, the shovel and axe kind of sits off over here. My recovery boards, again, this would be something I would want mounted on the bumper, but I just kind of throw it in right here and then shut the door. So that goes like that. So that they kind of just sit like that and shut the door, which I don't really like because they're in my way. So again, long-term temporary, or long-term investment is I want to get an aluminous bumper for the back that will allow me to move some of this gear out to the outside, where it'd be easier for me to access anyways if I needed it. Like if I got stuck or something, I needed the recovery boards, it'd be nicer if they were already outside. So I may move these again temporarily. What I might do is move them up onto the rack. I haven't decided yet, but for right now I've just been keeping them right here. But anytime I need to get anything out, I have to move them. And I think once I put the slider in, I may be forced to have to move them out anyways because they'll just be in the way. So again, I may try to figure out something. They may find their way up on top of the rack here shortly. So anyways, yeah, that's kind of where we're at with the van and some of the ideas I have moving forward with the van. Like I said, we got this big trip coming to Hell's Canyon, so I'm excited about it. So you're going to see a couple videos of just me kind of working on the van over the next, week and a half, 2 weeks. And then we're going to get to Hell's Canyon and get some, hopefully get a good trip video, a couple trip videos out of that for you guys. And that's going to be fun. So I'm excited about that. So anyways, if you guys enjoyed this video, if you got any suggestions or tips, please leave those down in the comment section below. And I'll catch you guys again outside.